Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Today's session is on integration with SharePoint and Confluence. Myself, Somajit Das, Product Manager, SMAX Integrations. I also have with me my dear colleague, Jan Stobe, who is going to walk you through this integration. This is one of the very important and quite required integration in quite a few implementation. So without delay, I will hand it over to Jan to walk you through this implementation.
Thank you so much, Ed. Welcome everyone to today's session. My name is Jan Stoibe. I'm software architect at Micro Focus, and I'm responsible for SMAX and its integration. And there's so much it mentioned today. I will demonstrate to you how to integrate with SharePoint or Confluence. And to give a brief overview of what I'm going to cover today, here's a short agenda I would like to share with you. I first give a brief context why this can be important, such an integration. Then I highlight the architecture, how this is installed and how you can realize this in your environment if you require this. Then I outline what steps you need to do to configure this integration. I show a brief demo directly inside SMAX, and then I guess we have enough time to answer potential questions from your side. So first, to start with the benefits of this integration. As you may know, Confluence and SharePoint can contain a lot of additional data, files, knowledge documents, a lot of things you may want to make available inside SMAX in your search results to bring additional knowledge directly into your agents in the SMAX service desk when you're handling incidents or when you're handling requests, but also in the self-service portal, users can search for them. And if this knowledge is made available to them, they can also see the results of those SharePoint or Confluence systems to see the details, to drill down, to read the documents, to best case help themselves then to, if an end user is using it, to avoid contacting the service desk. And SharePoint and Confluence, this is often a knowledge source at many companies, especially SharePoint, because by default you store lots of data there. And if you can make this available inside the SMAX UI, this may bring some huge advantage to your SMAX users. So how this is going to work, I have a little slide here how the architecture looks like. And let me start on the left side where we have the Confluence or SharePoint as represented as a data source. And then to install this or to realize this integration, you need to provision a new server. And on this new server, you start to install the Confluence or SharePoint idle connector. Idle, this is our search engine in the backend, which will then receive the data, index it, and make it available to SMAX. But before this can be used, you need to install this connector. And with the connector, then the system automatically installs the one in the big house at the middle of the screen with the CFS in between. The Confluence or SharePoint connector basically generates a shared folder on this server. It's a shared folder basically where the data, the updated data from the SharePoint or Confluence data source are ingested in. So either new content is added there or existing content is flagged as deleted in case it cannot longer found on SharePoint or Confluence. And this Confluence connector or SharePoint connector is pulling once an hour the data source and refreshes the shared folder on your server. That's the first component, which is in purple color. This is a separate process. And then on top of it, you need to install an on-premise bridge on the same server. And this on-premise bridge basically then is monitoring the shared folder for any updates, either new documents, modified documents, or deleted documents. And then via on-premise bridge, those records are then added or removed from the SMAX idle search engine. So you need to provide one additional server where you simply install this connector and an on-premise bridge. And by then doing so, you can get those data from your SharePoint or Confluence server into SMAX idle, which is then represented in the SMAX UI. So what are the steps you need to do to set up this integration? At the first place, you need to download the agent, so-called on-premise bridge. I'll show you in a minute where you can download that. And of course, you need to download the idle connector, either for SharePoint or for Confluence. As a second step, you should create an integration user in SMAX, which you then need to use in the on-premise bridge installation. You install on-premise bridge as a third step. You install the idle connector as a fourth step. Then you do a small configuration in the idle connector to configure, for example, which SharePoint site to index, which Confluence page to index, and all these things you need to input here. And last but not least, you have to configure an endpoint in SMAX, which is processing then the data and establishing the communication to your idle SharePoint connector or Confluence connector with the SMAX idle engine. So 6 steps to do to set up this integration. All of this is documented in our help server. Step by step, I give you a short guidance in this call today only. So some customer may ask how we can maybe restrict access or manage access rights to a certain SharePoint sites or Confluence pages. And because you may not want to grant access to all the content in a SharePoint site to everyone of your user base inside SMAX. And for this, when you install basically those connectors, Confluence or SharePoint, it's for both connectors exactly the same procedure. There's a configuration file in your CFS folder, and this allows you to configure couple of parameters. And in this example here, you can see the type, basically that's your SharePoint site, your shared folder, which you configured during the installation. Then you give in a name, which then appears in the SMAX search results. And what I highlighted in red here you can influence or decide if the index data is made available in the self-service portal in SMAX. So if you set the expose in portal to true, all the data indexed from those SharePoint or Confluence connector is also available in the self-service portal of SMAX. And the second option here, highlighted in red, exposed to entitlement ID. This is where you can even make a more granular control who should see a certain set of data. For example, who should get access for those SharePoint site. You can create entitlement roles in SMAX, as I have shown in the example here in the left on the right side. And then you simply enter your entitlement IDs into this configuration file here. And only people who are entitled by those entitlement roles will then see the data from a particular SharePoint site. If you keep exposed to entitlement empty, every user can see it. But that's one way to control access rights then to those documents from SharePoint or from Confluence. Then, just to summarize some additional notes, you need one additional server for this idle connector and on-premise bridge. The OEM license for those idle connectors is included in the connector package. I'll show you in a minute where you can download this, but you do not need to apply a separate license for these connectors, idle connectors. And as of 2022-05 version, we support SharePoints, you see here 2010, 13, 16, and 19, and Confluence on-premise 7.12.3. And in case you use the Confluence cloud-based version, all versions are supported here. Okay, let's have a look into the product to see how this looks like and also the results when you successfully configure this integration. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm sharing my screen so much can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, then first you need to download an agent as described in these 6 steps. And to do that, you go here in the SMAX integration menu, administration integration. You appear here on the agent side. You simply click add agent. You give it a name, my idle connector. You can see who will get recipients, right? Who will get notified in case the agent is not connectable anymore. And when you click here on Windows or Linux, you can download the agent itself. So you will download with this on-premise bridge. You have to install on your server, either Windows or Linux, to get this ready. Once you download this, you can also download the connection file. You copy the connection file according to the documentation into the on-premise bridge. Then the on-premise bridge can successfully connect to this SMAX tenant where you downloaded the connection file from. I don't do that now because that's already configured here in this side. So it will look like this then here, SharePoint demo, for example. And if the agent is connected, you will see a flag here and also agent last viewed message here when it's connected. So that's the first step. Then another step was to download the idle or SharePoint connector. And to do that, you simply go here, same in the integration menu, to the endpoint section. And in the endpoint section, you'll see here download options for SharePoint and Confluence connector. When you click here, you get redirected to the marketplace on Micro Focus. So you can also directly download it from marketplace. But from this page here, you have an easy entry point to find the right link and the latest version of these connectors to download it from there. So once you download it, you can install it. You can configure the connector as it's documented in our help server page. I do not do that at the moment because the time is not sufficient for that. But once it's installed, the last thing then you need to do, you create an endpoint here in SMAX. And by doing this, you select the knowledge indexing endpoint type. And this is communicating then based on the agent you select here below, for example, the agent you created, your SharePoint demo, or any other agent you have configured, and you give it your own name, my idle endpoint. When you do that, you configure it here. You simply your shared folder you have set up during the installation of the idle connector. You have to specify here. And by this folder, by configuring the folder here, the on-premise bridge knows on which folder on the same server the on-premise bridge need to look to get the latest data imported into the SMAX idle search engine. So how does this look like in a configured configuration? If I go to my SharePoint, say configured, here our shared folder in this example is ctemp and then SharePoint IT output. That's where the idle connector in our case is dumping all the files identified or found on the SharePoint server. And then on-premise bridge will pick it up from there and import it into the SMAX search engine. And if all goes well, you see also here lots of actions going on. You see every hour, 206, 306, 406, 506, the on-premise bridge is calling for updates. Same, the idle connector is also calling every hour. So you need to wait an hour to see the latest data refreshed. We also documented how to can trigger an integration directly on demand. You need to launch a specific URL here in the agent side, and then you can also trigger it directly. So, and how does it work then when all of this is configured and successfully integrated? For example, I have here my SharePoint where I have 5 documents at the moment, so not a lot, I know, but good enough for the demo. And now when you go in SMAX, maybe here in the agent UI, and let's see, evolve to SMAX. I get here already my documentation SMAX evolution package, for example, and it's classified as external knowledge because, yeah, it's coming from the SharePoint side in this example. And here I see a brief overview of it on the right side. And when I click the View button, the document is downloaded, and you can see the details of the document, and then, yeah, hopefully gets the information you're looking for. That's for agent side, how it can be used. But of course, if it's configured that those documents are also exposed to the self-service portal, you can do the same search here, evolve to SMAX, for example, and then you can see the same document here. Or you search for integrate with ALM if you're interested how to integrate with ALM Quality Center or ALM Octane, and you see also those documents then here classified as external article in the self-service portal. You can read it and then hopefully get the information you're looking for. And this is then all possible without maintaining and creating those articles in the SMAX UI, because we get them directly from Confluence or SharePoint. Okay, that's basically what I planned to show today. I know it was a little short maybe, but I hope it gave an overview how this could be implemented and what benefit you can get out of that. And now so much it. Any question we can talk about?
So I don't see any question in the question manager yet. If there is any question that pops up, I'll let you know, Jan. But that was a good demo. So question to audience, if you have any doubts, you can ask in the question manager. I hope this session was useful. This is pretty interesting integration that is been asked in almost every implementation. It gives a lot of benefit when it comes to one single source of knowledge. There is one. Is this supported on SaaS, as you need access to the CFS config file?
It works with SaaS because it's also available right for on-premise bridge. On-premise bridge, it's running locally in your environment, same as the idle connector, and then on-premise bridge connects to your SaaS tenant to get the data indexed.
Perfect. Any other question? Yeah, so as I was saying, this would give you, so if you have multiple places where your document is stored, Confluence and SharePoint, SMAX will be one source of truth where you can get all the knowledge bases. It's pretty powerful, and thanks, Jan, for showcasing this integration. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes. I'll quickly jump on to what's coming next. In between, if you have any issue, do provide your feedback, or if you need any assistance, do raise a request from the SMAX portal. For tomorrow, at the same time, we are going to have the SMAXpert Showdown, and that's the 4th round of quiz. And we would expect all of you to join and participate and beat the SMAX Doctor. With that, if there is no other question, we can close this session. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for your time. It was a good session, and see you tomorrow.